looks like the tables have turned on the deep state, and instead of them hunting other individuals and spying on people, they are now being hunted. Now, what just happened here? Yesterday we talked about the National Authorization Act for 2019. This is the John S. McCain National Defense Authorization Act. And in there, it said that the president had the right to revoke security clearance for certain individuals if they meet these requirements that were listed in the NDAA in a certain section. Today we hear that John Brennan, well, it looks like he was stripped of his security clearance. Now, I believe what's going to happen here is that Trump is going to be looking at other individuals like James Clapper, James Comey, Michael Hayden, Sally Yates, Susan Rice, Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, etc., etc., etc. And most likely, these individuals, their security clearance will be stripped away. Now, Q has mentioned this before and let us know about this, and we can see that it is happening. We're going to get into Q posts in just a minute. Now, out in Iran, the Iranian Supreme Leader, Khamenei, has admitted he made a mistake in allowing the country's foreign minister to speak to his U.S. counterpart during negotiations that led to a 2015 international nuclear agreement. Now, this is kind of odd because Khamenei rarely admits in public to making errors. And he's saying that he shouldn't have done this. Now, maybe they looked and something's changed in Iran. They might be looking at this where maybe they need to renegotiate this deal. And even though they keep saying there will be no war, there'll be no negotiations, I think eventually what's going to happen is things are going to turn around in Iran, and they will be contacting Trump, just like with North Korea. And we see at this point, I believe at this time, Trump wants to deal with Iran. He said, I will accept talks with no preconditions. We'll make a new deal. And I think they are now coming around to this, and I think eventually this will happen. Let's get into Q posts here. August 14th, post 1865. Anonymous put up, InfoWars is under attack. Note to A.G. Shills, nobody hacks a site and brings it down, but publishes a useful and informative redirect page. It's obvious this is a staged attack. Why am I not surprised? Q wrote, actors will act. We target NBC. NBC targets Q. Strategic. We are in control. Let's move on to post 1866, August 14th. Important takeaway. We've had the ball the entire time. Think offensive. Why did POTUS move his entire operation out of TT the day after Admiral Rogers' meeting? And TT is Trump Tower. The world is watching. The world is here. Eyes on Q. Now, this reads like Trump already knew about the spying before Admiral Rogers came to him and officially blew the whistle. This would imply that the Trump team was feeding the bad actors bad intel the entire time. They hesitated when told, when you think they would clear out immediately. They also didn't make a huge deal of it at the time. They just shifted operations. So one would suspect that even Admiral Rogers' disclosure was pre-planned on some kind of schedule. He would take the bullet in the view of the public, deal with the years of legal trouble and losing his home as a result in order to make sure this all came to light in an official capacity. And I guess we should say thank you to Admiral Rogers here. Post 1867, August 14th. Q put up the same thing that we just read and said they are in full-blown panic. enjoy the show. Each fake news article, written or attack, is a badge of honor, military grade. Now, an Anon thought he spotted a coded message in Q's drop. In Post 1867, which we just read, he circled, he or she, the Anon, attack military grade, and underlined the T in they, the P in panic, and W in show. So TPW, attack military grade. And once this was posted, all of a sudden the site went down. Kind of crazy. But then it came back up. So I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but it was kind of odd when this happened. Post 1868, an Anon put up Department of Justice airplane in Arkansas. Now, we talked about this before, where there was a Boeing 757 on the runway in Little Rock, and we know that the FBI was loading boxes onto this. And an Anon asked, was this plane there for the Clintons? And Q responded, do not link to Clinton Foundation. Clinton Foundation docs kept in New York City, Utah, Q. So we've got the answer, and we know from the article that we read before a couple days ago that the FBI says the Department of Justice plane in Little Rock is connected to a major drug bust. And we know that Jeff Sessions was also in Little Rock, so maybe this really had to do with this drug bust. And according to Q, this is what Q is saying. Post 1869, August 14th, Anonymous put up, are autists hot or cold on the plane message in Seattle or not? Way too much speculation. Q came back with, calculate probability. What is the mathematical probability that a rogue missile launched at near the runway plane? Was he a trained pilot? How fast did intercept occur? Think missile intercept. Think aircraft. Outside of standard deviation. Do people travel to islands to fish? How many billionaires own islands? How many billionaires live on islands? GOT with brackets, all bold capital letters. Clandestine. Q. So Q confirms that Sky King event was indeed a white hat event, and we suspected that because the plane went in circles, made a Q, and he fills in some of the blank spaces we had in our story. It seems that there was some type of surface-to-air missile, a SAM, or something that was intercepted, and we showed pictures of this where someone said they might have seen this in the weather cams. And then if you look further of who owns these islands, all these little islands around the Seattle area, well, it's James Gennard, net worth $4 billion, and he owns the Speeden Island, which he purchased in 1997 for $22 million. The island was owned by a group of investors who shipped a ton of exotic animals to the island for hunting purposes, which immediately screams out old money and things like the Rothschilds' Black Forest Bavarian estate. And if you look at the map, you can see Speeden Island, you can see Whidbey Island Naval Air Station, you can see where Ketron Island is, and they're all pretty much around the same exact area. So it looks like this guy might have connections to 2 different islands, and most likely this guy is probably part of the deep state or connected in some way. One end responded to all of this. That this Dauntless Dialogue channel, they had a guest on there called Tony Rodriguez, and he was mentioning that this 500-acre island near Seattle was owned by a very wealthy individual, and he peddled in elite parties where there were children and other things. And he recounts many details but refrains from identifying due to valuing his life. And there is also heavy speculation that it could also be Allen Island, which is in the same area, which was previously owned by billionaire Microsoft co-founder Paul Allen. So what we're getting out of all this is that these islands are owned by wealthy individuals, just like Epstein Island. And there are certain things happening on these islands. And we know that there was a missile that was launched from this area because these individuals are most likely deep state connected. And the entire area, one of these islands, something is going on in this area. Moving on to post 1870, there was a link there, 2600476, and Q is responding to an Anon. The Anon said, "So proud to be part of this. It's a whole lot of attention for a LARP." And Q wrote in post 1870, "Not seen since WikiLeaks Podesta dump. Similar in nature to attacks on POTUS. Think waves. Think coordinated. Think all outlets utilize fakes. Fake MAGA. Foreign and domestic. Are the emails in the WikiLeaks Podesta dump authentic? Has POTUS made a statement as president that hasn't ended up being true and correct? Destroy the narrative. This is much bigger than even autists can imagine. Much bigger, all capital letters. Repeats are necessary. 5,000 plus new a day. Welcome to the awakening. Free information, power back to the people. With knowledge comes power." So Anon kind of summed all this up, and I'm going to go through it. When Q says, "Not seen since WikiLeaks Podesta dump," the answer to that is there hasn't been this much media deflection from reality since the fall of 2016 when WikiLeaks dropped the Podesta emails. Similar in nature to attacks on POTUS? Yes, it is similar in nature because the same actors were exposed by WikiLeaks as POTUS now. Think waves. Think coordinated. Think all outlets utilized, plus fakes, fake MAGA. WikiLeaks released the emails in waves and in order based on contact and impact. Q's drops are well timed and coordinated with POTUS actions. Presumably once the enemy media and their handlers woke up to the Q phenomenon, now the response, 4 a.m., are being coordinated. Just wait until that sniveling, crying Jimmy Kimmel does some unfunny Q attacks, Anons. So Q says foreign and domestic. And the Anon wrote, from the BBC to other cabal-controlled international medical outlets, the now is not going to give up without a fight. Lord D plus Red Shield and plus Soros have been bemoaning the rejection of the New World Order and the rise of populism and nationalism. Q says, are the emails in the WikiLeaks Podesta dump authentic? Anon says 100% are authentic. WikiLeaks has a 10-year record of pristine, authentic leaks. More than a few of the emails had Google verifications. Q says, has POTUS made a statement as president that hasn't ended up being true and correct? The Anon said, not one all true. His wires were tapped. Comey is a slimy loser. Hillary, that Clinton is so corrupt. How corrupt? So corrupt she was kicked off the Watergate Commission. Destroy the narrative. Basically, Q saying destroy this whole entire narrative. So that sums all of that up. Now we're moving on to post 1871, August 14th. Q puts up MOS in brackets and then has lines coming down like a little diagram here. Alt plus U.S. media, U.S. politicians, and has a huge line with an X in it. Those who scream the loudest find the connection 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. Primary affiliate A, pointing to affiliate B, pointing to affiliate C. Marching to the same beat, coincidence, logical thinking. So Q is mentioning Mossad once again. They are at the top. Q has previously talked about the 4 a.m. secure drop system they have. That was the CIA, if I remember this correctly. So Is Q confirming that the CIA is controlled by Mossad now? The thing that might surprise some, however, is how not just the media, but the alt media is controlled. And some of these alt media channels that are being put up there, they are trying to push disinformation. And this is what he's talking about. And for those dots, if you're counting, you have 23 on the left and 25 on the right. Don't know exactly what the significance of that is. And when you see affiliate A pointing to affiliate B, pointing to affiliate C, it's most likely the news station affiliates scattered across the country getting their marching orders from the central headquarters of where the news is disseminated from. And Annan has a good thought on the 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 line. The Annan says, Q's latest graphic explains why Israel is last for a very good reason. The Mossad, Israel intelligence agency, is who is directing the media and anti-U.S. politicians and anti-UK and anti-etc. The one-to-one part tells me that they keep their lines very distinct, which means that one person knows only who is above and who is below them. Therefore, if someone is turned, only a small number of the cabal are implicated. This leads to the reason Israel is last. They have to work their way up through many, many lines of command back to the top, else the cabal will just regenerate due to having just a few of its Hydra heads removed. And this is why a lot of this is taking a lot of time, because you just can't go in, because the network is so complex. You just can't remove one individual or this individual because others pop up. Let's move on to post 1872. Anonymous put up, police from several suburban municipalities are staging in the parking lot of Cedarbrook Plaza. Early reports say there's an active shooter in Cheltenham Walmart. And down below, it gave the link to this article. And Q wrote, do you believe in coincidences? CA light fires dropped. Next man caught who follows Q. Think previous boom, boom, boom. What happened? Random coincidences. Conspiracy, read drops, setup, Q. And it looks like what's happening here is they're trying to make the connections with Q followers and trying to blame the Q followers for all these things that are happening right now to make it seem like the Q followers are very violent. They're the ones who are doing this. They're fake MAGA people. They're fake individuals. And if you go back to the post, you can see this is exactly what Q was writing. Post 1873, Q once again put the previous post in this post, and down below wrote, armed man Hoover Dam link to Q. They will not stop. Nothing to see here. Ask yourself why. And then did QQ, a double Q. Now, basically what is happening here is the Hoover Dam guy was a false Q follower. And it looks like they're setting these individuals up and saying that these individuals are following Q and they're very violent, just like we said, and Q is just confirming this. Now, when we look at post 1874, Q wrote security test, brackets, ping, all capitals, bold, defend, underscore B720-1A, Q. And then we move on to post 1875. And Anon says, confirm double Q was typo, confirmed Q. So that double Q that we saw before was a typo. Post 1876. Gmail drafts. Google safeguard highest level access 3 Google server routing non-US based. Sample in brackets. Wet work. Human trafficking. Sharing of ICE Border Patrol Sea Intel schedules to safeguard. Exit entrance. Sharing of FBI Sea Intel to safeguard private ops. Sharing of Department of Justice where we stand, investigations and guide to overcome, dismiss, win. Transfer of money instructions to left orgs, Department of Justice settlements, off-book meetings, play dates, stand-down orders, non-action orders, Muslim Brotherhood. Coordinate with UK assets, O-Pro, insist UKP, coordinate with foreign actors for payment, money disperse, coordinate with aid organizations for illegal plans, ham radio instructions if remote -5. And then Q went on to say, why did ES make public NSA class tools? Eric Snowden. Think X-key score plus PRISM specifically. Was such tech kept from elected officials? Was such tech kept from elected directors? Why was no such agency created? Think SIG-INT. What advantages exist to big tech, other ABC off-on agencies? Elected officials, CEOs, foreign adversaries. If such information is learned, what price are you, the public, willing to pay? Did you ever play hide and seek? So Google were the ones providing the technical know-how for not just Obama and Hillary and those types, but all the deep state worldwide. They used these Google channels for everything they wanted to hide. And notice how Q puts elected in quotation marks. The X-key score and the PRISM tools, spying tools built by the NSA, were kept from these people because White House were actively trying to surveil them. When the existence of these programs was suddenly exposed by Edward Snowden, it set the NSA back. Let's move on to post 1877. Q gave a link. And then in brackets, Siri, Facebook listens even after you remove the app. Twitter, GOTL, you are under constant tracking surveillance. DARPA, Q. Well, this should be common knowledge to everyone because it's completely out there that our devices are following us no matter what. They're built into the system. They're following, they're tracking, they know everything about you. Big Brother is watching. These tech companies are not your friends. They're intrusive oligarchs. Post 1878, Q put up a link from Fox News. Woman arrested at extremist Muslim New Mexico compound, sheriff says. Q wrote, sick and disgusting. Judge Sarah Backus. Q. Now what this is, it's a compound in New Mexico. There were 5 suspects that were arrested at this Muslim compound, and they were transferred to a U.S. cell there. And the sheriff there is saying that this is a training center to train shooters. And these individuals would be trained and then sent off to maybe have some type of shooting or something in different locations in the U.S. And I don't think this is the only camp. Buried under the compound were the remains of a 3-year-old boy. Now, Q highlights the judge in this case, Sarah Backus. So, Judge Backus allowed an individual, Janie Lavelle, one of the 5 suspects that were arrested, allowed this individual to be transferred to the custody of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. The question is, why? So, Judge Sarah Backus said she was concerned about troubling facts. Prosecutors failed to articulate any specific threats to the community. Why was this individual, this particular individual, released and the others are on bail? Remember what Q said about the border states, their special cases. Remember how difficult it was for this raid to even occur in the first place. Cops, they couldn't even get a warrant for the longest time. And the owners of the land couldn't kick these people off their land. So make no mistakes, this is a real-life terror cell, not a homestead. So these people are being protected by higher-ups looking to cause chaos. And I do believe that there's more than just this one camp. There's probably many more. Post 1879. Q gives a link from Fox News. Stunning findings on report of Catholic Church abuse priests molested more than 1,000 children. Q wrote, House of God, only the beginning. Those who you are taught to trust the most expect many, many, many similar reports to surface from around the world. It goes a lot deeper, connected. The choice to know will be yours. And Q gave this article explaining, what has been happening here. We're going to move on to post 1880. Q wrote Haiti with a link, a YouTube link of a video showing, what has been found in Haiti. And Q says, read very carefully, gave another link to news.com.au. And this article is Matt Duran goes undercover with Operation Underground Railroad to bring down Haiti child sex ring. Q wrote, child trafficking victim who've spent their formative years servicing the carnal desires of men, often foreigners who are 3, 4, 5, or 6 times their age. Their madam tells me that many of their customers are Western humanitarian workers who've come here to help rebuild Haiti after the recent run of natural disasters. The more you know. Now remember, we also talked about yesterday about this UN report, so a lot of this information is starting to come out. Post 1881, Q put back the previous post of 1880 and under it wrote, this is far from a vigilante group. Leading the team is ex-Department of Homeland Security Special Agent Tim Bullard, perhaps America's foremost human trafficking expert. The problem in Haiti is an international crisis. Ballard explains, with so many children displaced or many from during the recent earthquake and hurricane, recruiters move quickly to sweep these children up. And the worst part of it all is that in many cases, the clients are the foreigners who've come here to help, the NGO workers and the so-called humanitarians. Pure evil. And Q put in brackets, kill brackets, 4 on each side, hunters become the hunted. The more you know. Now, again, the more you know, we know where this comes from. This comes from the NBC saying, the more you know. This is a public service announcement that they used to run. I don't know if they run it anymore. And they always gave you a little blurb and it says, the more you know. Now, I think Q is linking NBC to human trafficking. And here are a list of the program supporters because apparently a small 20-page PSA blurb needs supporters like the following. Education, U.S. Department of Education. Teach, too small to fail. 100,000 kilometer 10. First, STEM Education Coalition. National Education Association. The Opportunity Institute, City Year. Boys and Girl Clubs of America. Diversity, American Association of People with Disabilities, Anti-Defamation League, Asian American Justice Center, GLAAD, NAACP, National Congress of American Indians, National Council of La Raza, U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disabilities, Employment Policy, Teaching Tolerance, Erase the Hate, Health, USDA, Center for Nutrition Policy and Promotion, Choose My Plate, Let's Move, Civic Engagement, Nonprofit Vote, Turbo Vote, Vote Smart, and the list goes on and on and on. No wonder why NBC is in panic mode. They're probably connected in some way. So the hunters become the hunted. Post 1882, Q put up NBC with an article from BBC, Election US 2016, read very carefully. And this says Mrs. Clinton was Secretary of State and Mr. Clinton was UN Special Envoy to Haiti when the January 2010 earthquake struck, killing an estimated 220,000 people. Some $13.3 billion was pledged by international donors for Haiti recovery. A U.S. government accountability office report discovered no hint of wrongdoing, but concluded that Hillary Rodham Clinton's decisions were not necessarily aligned with Haitian priorities. Mr. Clinton's own office at the UN found that 9% of the foreign aid cash went to Haitian government and 0.6% to local organizations. Most likely it's a lot less than this. Now, after the earthquake, disaster capitalists flocked to the nation of 10 million people, which is about the size of the U.S. state of Massachusetts. Private contractors were eager to sell services in what one U.S. envoy described in WikiLeaks' disclosed diplomatic cable as a gold rush. In email exchanges with top Clinton Foundation officials, a senior aide to Mrs. Clinton, who was then Secretary of State, kept an eye out for those identified by the abbreviations FOB, Friends of Bill Clinton, or WJC, VIPs, William Jefferson Clinton, VIPs. The emails, which were obtained through a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit by the Republican National Committee, have fueled claims the Clintons were running a pay-to-play operation, though they couldn't find any evidence, and none has emerged. No evidence, how convenient. Possibly the most enduring criticism of the Clinton Foundation's work in Haiti stems from its signature project, a garment factory known as the Caracol Industrial Park. The foundation, working with the Clinton State Department, helped arrange a U.S. subsidy deal with the Haitian government to build the $300 million factory complex in 2012. Several hundred farmers were evicted from their land to make way for the 600-acre manufacturing site, which produces clothes for retailers such as Old Navy, Walmart, and Target. South Korean textile giant SeAe Trading Company, which is the main employer at the facility, subsequently donated between $50,000 to $100,000 to the Clinton Foundation. Now, most likely, that facility is being used for much more production, as they claim. Post 1883, Q put up 2 links to YouTube, 2 different videos. The second video, for some reason, was taken down. But Q says we stand together. Q, the first video, the actual audio part of it, I'll be playing at the end of this report. And again, you've already heard this before, but I'll play it at the end here. Post 1884, SA access closed. Saudi Arabia access closed. Epstein Island access closed. Haiti access closed. And the access part is in brackets, all bold capital letters. North Korea access closed. China access closed. Russia access closed. Cuba access closed. Sudan access pending. Government Saudi Arabia U.S. push. Syria access pending. Government. Yemen access pending. Government. Libya access pending. Main port closed. Limited. Somalia access pending. SA U.S. push. So we can see right now the access to all this human trafficking and everything that's going on, they're all being shut down. It's time for the entire world to wake up right now.